Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the language of big business. Today we are diving into Sphere 3D's annual report. Get ready, because this report is a bit like a roller coaster, some ups, some downs, and maybe a loop-de-loop or two. This report covers their performance for the entire year of 2024, a crucial time for a company trying to make it big in the Bitcoin mining world. Sphere 3D is trying to make a name for itself in the blockchain and cryptocurrency business. They're all about mining Bitcoin and setting themselves up as leaders in this pretty new industry. One big change this year is that they sold off a part of their business that handled things like data management. Now they're putting all their energy into Bitcoin mining. So how did they do? As of the end of 2024, they were holding about 14.9 Bitcoins, worth around $1.4 million. They make Bitcoin through their mining and will sometimes sell Bitcoin to pay the bills and chase new opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, they invested $1.4 million into building a mining site in Iowa. This site will help them mine Bitcoin at a lower cost. After the period covered by the report, they put another $1.4 million Bolivport. They put another $1.4 million Gen 5. To make Bitcoin, they need special computers called miners. As at the end of 2024, they owned approximately 14,000 of these miners, but only about 6,300 were actually working. All those machines could do 0.76 exahash per second, which is basically how fast they can solve the complex problems to mine Bitcoin. They mined 286.3 Bitcoins. While this seems like a lot of digital coins, that number is actually a 57.1% decrease. It's mainly because there was a halving event, meaning the reward for mining Bitcoin was cut in half. Additionally, the strategic plan to move to lower cost locations and upgrade equipment also contributed to the decrease. Let's talk about some agreements. Sphere 3D relies on different companies to host their mining equipment. They signed a master hosting agreement with Simple Mining. They also had agreements with other companies in the past, but those relationships have changed. There was the Joshi hosting agreement, which locked them in for 3 years. There was also the Rebel hosting agreement, but that was terminated, resulting in a settlement. And the Lancium hosting agreement ended too, which led to some equipment being retained by Lancium as payment. There's the GC Data Center agreement, but they mutually agreed to end that, with GC Data Center paying Sphere 3D a $3 million termination fee. They also had a master services agreement with Graphine Digital Mining. Long story short, they sued each other, then settled with no payments required. Also, the company settled with Core Scientific for $10 million of Core Scientific equity. Sphere 3D's stock on the Nasdaq Capital Market has to stay above $1 Berg 00 in March. 2025, they got a warning because they fell below that minimum. They now have until September 2025 to get their stock price back up. To raise money, Sphere 3D has a sales agreement with AG PES Alliance Global Partners, which allows them to sell up to $8 million of their common shares, giving the flexibility to raise money when needed. In late 2023, they sold their service and product segment to Joseph O'Daniel. This sale included Archivy connections, and the company recognized a gain of $7 million. Let's move on to the financial results. According to the Form 10K, the aggregate market value of the company's voting and non-voting common equity held by non-affiliates as of June 28, 2024 was approximately $21.3 million. As of March 24, 2025, they had about 26.2 million of their common shares outstanding. This gives you an idea of how many pieces the company is divided into for ownership. Now let's look at the numbers, pulling out the most interesting points in the report. I'll scroll to the consolidated balance sheets. Their cash and cash equivalents jumped from about $600,000 to $5.4 million. That's a huge increase, giving them much more breathing room. They've also made a big move by investing in equity securities valued at $7.5 million at the end of 2024, which was non-existent a year prior. The accounts payable dropped significantly. That means they're doing a better job of managing their short-term debts. From about $2, $40, $40, $44, $40, total current assets increased from $13.5 million to $17 at ET 17.80. Here's what an independent auditor of the company says about their books. They stated there's substantial doubt about Sphere 3D's ability to continue as a going concern. Basically, there is real risk the company might not be able to continue operating in the long term without additional funding. However, the auditors also stated that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The financial position of the company as of December 31, 2023, their Bitcoin mining revenue decreased, as mentioned previously, from $19.7 million to $16.6 million. They also booked a pretty sizable $3.5 million loss on selling some of their mining equipment. Now, for a bright spot, investment income jumped to $9 million. That's a big boost compared to zero the previous year, thanks to gains from their investment in Core Scientific. However, even with that boost, they still ended up with a net loss of $9.5 million. It is also stated in the Form 10-K that they believe that there were no deficiencies in their internal control over financial reporting. According to the filing, the board of directors oversees the company's management of cybersecurity risks. Of course, a company like Sphere 3D faces many risks. For example, their total revenue heavily relies on Bitcoin's price. Also, changes in environmental rules and regulations could create more costs and challenges. Another big one is cybersecurity, because the price of Bitcoin is so volatile and because it has had a history of losing its value makes it a risky asset to keep value in as an investment. Finally, they acknowledge that they may not have enough cash to keep things running, raising serious questions about their long-term stability. As we covered early on and repeated at the last financial note, there's substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a going concern. Now, let's step back and take a look at the big picture. Sphere 3D is in a tough spot. They are trying to do everything they can, vertically integrating into the mining operation. The huge jump in cash is a good sign, but that is offset by the warnings from the auditors. The reliance on Bitcoin prices is concerning too, so they need to find a way to reduce risk and diversify, or hope Bitcoin goes to the moon. That is going to do it for our deep dive today. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment, and I will see you on the next Corporate Decoder episode.